because Russian oil is only 3%, was only 3% of oil, of all oil consumed or rather imported by the United States. So they are using this, they are doing this to exploit their own population. They are actually talking and trying to do deals with countries that before they used to impose sanctions on, like Iran or Venezuela. They are sending officials there to sign new agreements with them. The same will happen when it comes with respect to our country as well, and I'm sure of that. Our partners, we will of course talk with our partners who recognize that we are right in this situation, and I would like you to also look into other instruments, rather than other mechanisms that could be used to stabilize the situation. Overall, the situation is normal. I talk to the heads of the regions every day. But I'd like you to continue to look into that. Now, Mr. Kochakov, about additional payments to families with children aged 8 to 16.
As per your instruction, we worked on the mechanisms of the new welfare payments for the children from 8 to 16 years. For the low-income families, this measure is going to be a part of the system to support the families with children.
All right, let's go to Dasha Chernysheva, who is live in Moscow for us. So we just heard Russian President Vladimir Putin there talking about problems within the United States, problems with inflation, saying that the U.S. is trying to blame Russia for its mistakes. And also, he said just then that the situation is normal. How could that possibly be the case when the West has absolutely heaped sanctions on Russia, as well as Vladimir Putin himself and his inner circle?
Well, what we have also heard from the Russian officials is that the situation in Russia is akin to an economic war that the West is waging against Russia. So essentially, it's hard to say it could be quite normal, but definitely when we hear these words from the president, he's trying to normalize the state of many Russians who can see how sanctions and the economic situation, the devaluation in the national currency, the ruble, have already hurt them. So essentially, Russia was prepared that there will be sanctions. But probably this normal means that everything is going not just according to the plan, but Russia has been prepared to those actions. Now we keep hearing about new measures implemented in Russia to support the Russian population, the Russian industries. Of course, Russia will have to make a lot of effort to restore its economy, and everybody understands that very clearly. Now, this is a conversation about agriculture, about tourism, about all the different sectors of the economy where there were Western companies, Western brands, or Western imports. So essentially, Russia is saying that in this situation, there is also a room for opportunity. But then, of course, many people and experts understand that this opportunity will take a while, a lot of time to return back to some sort of normal situation in the Russian economy. But the president and the government say they are doing everything possible to mitigate those detrimental effects of the sanctions, of course.
Got it, got it. And among normal people there in Moscow, how are their lives affected right now by the collapse of the ruble and the other sanctions that have had effects already? Are they feeling it?
Oh, yes, they do, particularly in big cities. So essentially, when you talk about Russians, you have to differentiate between people who live in big cities and people who live in rural areas. Of course, those who live in big cities are used to all the boons of the economy, are used to imported goods, are used to new iPhones, and so on and so forth. And definitely, they are seeing the effect because the prices of the imported goods are going up, but only on the imported goods, also of those that are produced in Russia. And that was actually one of the issues that was discussed today at the State Duma. They also talked about why the Russian production is also increasing in price. So we definitely can see how the residents of big cities are seeing the effect. Now, of course, they see how their purchasing power has squeezed. And of course, when you talk about people who live in rural areas, they are not yet to see the effect because they do not have that much infrastructure there and they are not used to so many good things that people in the cities have. So essentially, that's the differentiation. But of course, what many understand that this is just the beginning with people maybe losing their jobs. Of course, the government says they will do everything possible to keep the unemployment rate low. But definitely, with so many Western brands living the Russian market, it's not clear for how long they will be able to pay their employees here. So essentially, people understand that this is just the beginning and there is more to come.
Yeah, clearly President Putin has big challenges abroad and big challenges at home at the moment. We're going to keep monitoring that. Dasha, thanks so much for joining us. Well, in Ukraine, hundreds of people have been killed and more than 2 million made refugees in the past 2 weeks alone. Russian troops, artillery, and tanks are making slow progress from the north, south, and east of the country. At least 3 people were killed and 17 hurt in the besieged city of Mariupol. Authorities